So I think it's been about a week since I last did one of these. It is Monday, the 16th of November. I am now 24, which, considering that time is just a concept and yada yada yada, is meaningless. But we attribute meaning to things and shit. And I won't go on some massive spiritual bullshit rant. But yeah, I'm 24. And I guess that means a thing or two. And I'm looking ever more homeless. I've got dust everywhere on my face. I look dirty as shit, and I've got this bastard flopping about. I'm 24, and that means nothing basically, but it comes with a few self-expectations or whatever. But yeah, I guess I'll give it a general overview of what's happened over the last week. Not a lot. I've been doing some programming still, getting back into journaling because I took a bit of a break where I guess I just didn't feel like it. So I've been doing a bit of that. Me and Nico are getting on very well. Over the last, I'd say, 2 months, I've been in a pretty, maybe a bit less than 2 months, maybe a month and a half, I don't know. Basically, since I've been back at work, I guess, a month and a half, I've been in a pretty good frame of mind. But I'd say over the last month then, because even when I was back at work, I was in a pretty negative mindset. It's since me and Nico just communicated a lot more stuff that we've been doing better. Communication has been the key, and I think it's the kind of the pillar, the foundation to any friendship slash relationship. I have some things I want to say, but I can't remember many of them, as always happens. I saw a snake the other day in a box. The guy stopped me on this trail I'm on now and just said, "Yo, there's some boxes, don't crash into them." I was like, sick. And they were just little plastic containers with holes in the top. I passed three and thought, well, I'll have a look inside. And they were just these 3 to 6 foot, I don't know how long they were, 4 foot, 5 foot snakes coiled up. Like, fuck, what's he going to do with just releasing them? Like, what? Okay. Probably some other shit has happened. I met my neighbour for the first time and it felt quite awkward at the beginning. Like, it's weird, like everyone's kind of got into this enclosed frame of mind due to COVID, I guess, and the isolation and quarantining, so everyone's kind of like at least mentally a recluse, so it's hard to socialise, or it's awkward, uncomfortable. So I got to talk to this guy and we had a conversation. It was good, it was fine. Yeah, it's like opening up. It's like you have to pry people open, and I have to pry myself open sometimes in conversation, or not. When you get into it, it's instantly more natural, but it's like initiating the conversation feels very unnatural with strangers. And I've had a few times where I've been walking and someone will see I'm walking their way and it's just us two on a street, and they'll turn around. Maybe it's just pure coincidence, but I had it once about a month ago, where someone was taking a picture, two people, and one more person was in the viewfinder, the other person was like just looking at what they were taking a picture of. Put the camera down to start walking toward me, and as soon as they started walking toward me, they just said, "Oh yeah, let's turn around," and they went back, and I was just like, that's fucking hilarious, but kind of sad. So yeah, there's that. Yesterday, I watched for my birthday. Me and Nico watched Midnight in Paris, which is a fantastic film. It was the first Woody Allen film I've seen. We had a beer, and it was very nice, very chill. I guess I want to talk about these. I almost hit two women cycling. There's these couple of kind of young women who walk on this path, and they take up the entire path, and they're walking toward me twice last week, and I nearly hit them. Like they don't look up, they just, like, one of them just looks at the ground, who's on my side of the path. And this time just now they were walking away from me. I rang my bell, and when I got really close to them and I rang it the third time, they moved to the left, which they should have done at first, but because they were further onto the opposite side, I was in the left, so I almost hit them. And yeah, I didn't feel like a surge of anger. I just said sternly after I passed them, like, please keep to the right side. That's all I said. Please keep to the left or something. That's all I said. Or no, keep to the left, please, is what I said. And I noticed that, yeah, I'm less reactive, and I'm more able to. I guess I've had this for a while, but yeah, I'm more able to observe a reaction and not actually act upon it. I had that like last week when Zach kind of had an outburst at me for taking the pissing, taking too long going to the toilet, and his excuse was that it was just a bullshit excuse, a bullshit reason to complain. And I felt like all the mental stuff, like going off like he's wrong because of this, and just breaking down how irrational he was. Then I just let it pass, and I realised it was like an explosion of other anger that he'd accumulated and just directed toward me. So I just observed it, that saw it for what it really was, what I believed it really was, and let it pass. That's kind of a general update, I guess. I finished my protein powder because, and I threw a couple of 100 grams away of it, I guess. It was that much. Because I realised that I still can't trust myself as regards having anything snacky or sweet in the house. Which is okay, but it makes me anxious about living with my mum when I go back in January. I've mentioned this stuff before, so I'm repeating myself. But yeah, as regards being 24, one of the things I kind of set myself a goal for mid-20s to late 20s, which is I want to learn how to love myself more, or just to love myself full stop. Like I don't think I do. One of the realizations I believe I had recently, like literally over the weekend or Thursday or Friday, coming up to my birthday weekend. I think I realised that when I watch porn, or when I see girls on the street, or see couples in movies, and I feel like, and I reminisce, or I'm nostalgic for past intimacies, or I think about how I'd like that sort of intimacy, or I feel a sense of loneliness. I think it's because I feel that I'm incapable of loving myself, so I want that girl to do it for me. I want her to love me because I'm incapable of doing it. So yeah, so I want to try to learn how to actually properly love myself, and kind of a realization I had of that, like a feeling, like a realization I had over that, like maybe yesterday on my birthday or the day before, was that like self-discipline is part of self-love if it's done the right way. All in the past, like just discipline for the sake of discipline without the understanding is not futile, but it can lead to very unhealthy things, like a very unhealthy self-image, which is what I've cultivated through discipline, sort of like stoicism, and just being like hard on yourself, and ego is the enemy and all this shit. Just do the hard thing, don't think about it, just do what's uncomfortable, get comfortable with discomfort, yada yada yada, without understanding why you're doing it. It's just you're kind of berating yourself. So what I've kind of learned is if you know what is valuable to you, for example, abstaining from masturbation and porn, or especially the latter, cooking varied meals, healthy meals, going for exercise, lifting weights, if you know what's actually good for you and what you value, and then disciplining yourself to carry out those actions, and understanding why you're carrying out those actions and how they're good for you and whatever, that's, I believe, akin to self-love. And if you don't do those things, so if you do go and binge eat, or you do jack off to porn or whatever, then not reproaching yourself and learning how to forgive yourself and not feel shame or guilt, that's very hard, very difficult for me, not to feel a sense of shame or guilt. So that's something to work on as well, because like if I binge eat, or if I not necessarily when I watch porn, I don't feel shame really, I just feel like usually shitty the next day, and like some sense of like I shouldn't have done that, I didn't really want to do that. But if I binge eat, or if I'm secret eating, then I feel shame and embarrassment. It's learning, I guess, not to feel that way, allowing yourself to binge eat and whatever. Not trying to do it, but allowing it to happen if it does happen, and forgiving yourself thereafter. So that's something about it. I think they're the biggest things to learn, and I'm glad I've realised there's a path that I have some idea of, how to go down. Because I think hitherto I've been like, self-love, like that's too abstract. How the fuck do you do that? What does that mean, etc. It's a very personal thing, and I think maybe I'm getting a sniff, a taste of what it means. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest point I wanted to make in this video. I'm also thinking of shaving this bastard off, I mean, it's just inconvenient. It's just there are loads of straggly ends that just chill everywhere. I was looking at like selling it. I just looked today for 10 minutes selling it, and I looked for 10 minutes of donating it, because selling it just seems a hassle, and I don't know how the fuck it's going to do. But I think donating it's pretty simple. If someone was on the doorstep and was like, "Yo, I'll shave your hair and give you $500," I'd do it. I wouldn't donate it, but I think donating's easier, and I doubt it'll give me any feel good. Oh yeah, virtue signalling, but I'll get rid of it, and it'll be doing something good probably. So I could donate it, and go completely bald. It might knock my ego back and say, "Hey Luke, you're ugly." I'm not ugly, but you're less attractive than you were. Maybe I'm more attractive, because this, as my mum pointed out this weekend, is rather effeminate and not what I want. But if I just get into a little man bun, I don't fucking know. But yeah, I'm thinking of shaving this off, and then shaving all this off as well, probably. Just going like a mole rat, like a fucking naked mole rat. And that's, I think, about it. Yeah, me and Nico getting on. We booked tickets to go see Tenet at the IMAX cinema, like this Friday or next Friday or something, because Melbourne's now pretty much open. Clubs aren't open and stuff, but places are slowly opening up, or they are opening up, just at different intervals depending on the place. I'm sort of looking forward to get back home to some extent. I'm only anxious about having my self-loathing, my self-expectation sort of surmounting me. That's what I'm anxious about. I'm anxious about overeating. I'm anxious about going into a regressive mindset, because I'm living in my childhood home and my adolescent home, and how that'll affect me mentally. But I look forward to the possibility of sort of like renovating and making Dad's shed that he built in the garden my own. It'd be kind of awesome. We've got like a decent window in there, having like a record player and a desk and a chair, and being able to having a heater, being able to write in there and meditate, and have my laptop in there. It could be really cool. It's got electricity in there, so that's good. Also the garden, the possibility of doing some gardening and making the garden look nice. And then having my bedroom more personalised and more essentialist, minimal. That could be good. And hopefully seeing some friends. Hopefully the UK, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't see it opening up for Christmas. I don't know where they're getting that from, but we'll see. And I think that's about it. Just try to learn, try to live a bit more simply. One thing I have to say about meditation is that last week I think I did like 2 days in a row where I only meditated in the morning for 15 minutes. And I know this sounds like pretentious and bullshit and whatever, but I don't care. I noticed that I was more, it's probably to do with sleep as well, but I was more reactive and I was more anxious on those days, I feel. And yeah, I think you could say it's quite sad that I feel I have to rely on like meditation, to at least like half an hour meditation, to just sustain a decent mental state each day. But I think the more I'm reading and the more I'm learning about myself or whatever, the more I realise to some extent that at the moment in my life I don't really want to be living in a city. I want to be exploring and shit. And I think because I'm quite aware of that, this meditation is helping me sort of tolerate, and not just tolerate, but live somewhat happily, somewhat stress-free in this time. So I think that's positive, and it's not sad. And another thing to say about this is, someone could say it's sad to think that I have to learn how to love myself, or it's sad that you have to forgive yourself. You should just be able to do that anyway. But I do think that most people in the West, let's say, or most people in general, don't truly love themselves to the depth that I'm talking about here, and do harbour self-hatred, and do have repressed feelings, and they're just not aware of how much they hate themselves, which sounds like a horrible thing to say, but or at least they're not aware of how little they like themselves or love themselves, or how little love there is for themselves, from themselves. So yeah, I don't think it's sad that I say I have to learn how to do this. Last thing, regarding books, Yeah, I'm reading 12 by 12, a book by William Powers, which is very interesting. Sort of masturbation in regard to like just kind of reaffirming just what I kind of a lifestyle I'd kind of like to live with, live through. Um, it's a pleasant book, very well written. It's very nice. It's kind of wholesome. Another book I recently read was Headspace: The Psychology of City Living. Very good book. At least read the first 25%, I'd say, and you can skim the rest. It gets kind of repetitive, but it's great, very good, very nice ideas. Um, and yeah, kind of thought about like how if you just take one idea from a book and you really feel it, or if a book sort of changes for the positive the way you view the world to some extent, even if it's like a short lasting thing or you feel it's a short lasting thing, then I think that makes it a good book. You know, you can read a philosophy book and take one idea and then maybe it changes it, like you feel for like a week or so how much it changes your view of the world, and then you kind of integrate that changed perspective, that altered perspective into your core mindset, and you might go, well, I don't really remember much from that book, but you've integrated it, you've digested it, you've ingested it, and it's been digested, so it has actually changed you. You know, that's the thing I used to think about philosophy or books in general, that I have to remember everything from the book. But if you just read it and you feel what it's telling you and you sort of taste it and digest it, then you don't have to remember everything. You don't have to remember anything because you've kind of internalized it. And that's about it. Um, that's that is it. I think I'm gonna fucking get rid of this. It's just it gets in my face when I'm working. I'm like, what the fuck is that?